Okay, welcome. I'm Tim Scoggins, Chairman of the Shaftsbury Select Board, and I'm calling this meeting of the Shaftsbury Select Board to order at 6:34 on September 16th, 2019. First, I need to check with the board. Does any member of the board have a conflict of interest with anything appearing on the agenda this evening?
No.
No? No? One does. Good. First up, minutes. We have some minutes to approve. June 20th. Did these really not get approved?
Yeah, you weren't all here.
Okay.
Small group.
Okay, well, we're here now, and these have been circulated for quite some time. So is there a motion to approve the minutes for the special select board meeting on June 20th, 2019?
So moved.
Moved by Tony.
Second.
Second by Art. Any discussion, additions, or corrections? All in favor of approval say aye.
Aye.
Aye. That's 5-0-0. We have meeting minutes for the Water Board on June 3rd, 2019. Art, Tony, and Ken were there. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Moved by Tony.
Second.
Second by Art. Discussion, additions, corrections. All in favor of approving the minutes for the June 3rd Water Board meeting say aye.
Aye.
5-0-0. And the June 3rd Select Board meeting. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Moved by Tony.
Second.
Second by Joe. Here we have Ken, Art, Joe, and Tony. Any discussion, additions, or corrections? All in favor of approval say aye.
Aye.
5-0-0. July 1st, we had Tim, Ken, Art, Joe, Tony. Is there a motion to approve the minutes for July 1st?
So moved.
Moved by Tony,
Second.
seconded by Art. Discussion, additions, corrections? All in favor of approving the minutes say aye.
Aye.
5-0-0. Next up is warrants. First I have check warrant number 6 in the amount of $92,956.22.
So moved.
Motion to approve from Tony,
Second.
second by Art. Items over $1,000 include Blue Cross Blue Shield, $6,500 to Blue Cross Blue Shield, $33,000 to Bodwin Paving. That would be Myers.
It's North Road and the repair work to the dip on White Creek.
Oh, yes, yes. $3,200 to Bennington County Sheriff, $7,300 to Delory Sales and Service. Is there something specific?
And that was
called in?
the 2013 tandem. Had multiple issues with it.
Okay. $4,500 to Eddie Shule Construction.
It's the roof for the old mill firehouse.
Okay.
No,
North Road. Old Depot Road.
Old Depot Road, yes. Thank you. What did I call it? Old mill?
Yeah.
What did I always call it?
$3,700 to Innovative Surface Solutions. Those are our
That's the
chloride people.
chloride, yeah.
Yep.
Mhm.
$12,000 to KAS.
That was the spring water sampling.
Yeah. $1,200 to Morse Repair. $2,500 to VRS sales.
That was fixing one of the fire trucks, the prime pump went down, so they had to replace it.
$3,600 to daily, $1,800 to daily, $1,200 to Wilmington Vent, Campbell and Vent for the trust dissolution.
Yes,
That's the cemetery funds and the health fund, which we were going to talk about in action items. That is now in front of the judge. So we're just waiting for the courts to turn the crank. Any other discussion on check warrant number 6? All in favor of approving check warrant number 6, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstaining. So check warrant number 6, in the amount of $92,956.22 is approved, 500.
Thank you.
Oh, that is my whole stack.
Yeah.
Next I have check warrant number 7 in the amount of $372.90.
So moved.
Moved by Tony,
Second.
second by Art. This is, says petty cash.
It's just a petty cash reimbursement for all the small things.
Yep. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstaining? So check warrant number 7 in the amount of $372.90 is approved, 500. And I have payroll warrant number 5 in the amount of $21,290.09.
So moved.
Motion to approve from Tony,
Second.
second by Art. Any discussion on the payroll? All in favor of approval say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstaining? So payroll warrant number 5 in the amount of $21,290.09 is approved, 500. Are there any announcements?
What roads are going to be closed next week or into early?
So I have a whole list coming up for you.
Okay.
Okay, we'll discuss that in the roads report. I wanted to mention that the Planning Commission is having a hearing on the new town plan on September 24th. That's at 6 p.m. That coincides with their regular meeting. And the data from the cell survey that we did here in town, I finally got around to putting that up on the web along with the data from the internet survey, which has been there for a while. Created a new spot for that on the homepage. In our quick links box, you'll see a broadband, or you can search for broadband and find that. Public comments. Are there any public comments? Yes.
Yeah, I got a situation. Stanley Williams, 62 Spur Road.
Stanley Williams?
Stanley Williams, yes.
Okay. You can pull up a chair if you like.
Oh, no, I'm good. I'm good. I received on my tax bill, that I got penalized $119 for a late declaration and a homestead declaration. And that was not my fault, because I got a letter here from Mr. McCutcheon. He was sick, you know, and he couldn't get it in on time, so.
Okay. That decisions on tax abatement, is that the right word in this case? I believe it is, the Board of Abatement rules on those. And Madam Treasurer, do you know where we stand relative to the timetable for grieving taxes this year? We're well past that, aren't we?
I don't, yeah, I think there might be another one,
It
but,
might be, and I'm not sure if this is an abatement or a fine waiver.
yeah, I don't
If
think
you
that would
could-
be an abatement.
If we could ask the gentleman maybe to go see Marlene downstairs and make copies of those, so she can get it back to me, and I can check legally what the procedure would be, because it is the town policy to have this fine, but if you, I take it that's your attorney you're talking about, or your accountant?
No, you
didn't
can't,
get it?
yeah, I mean, it wasn't, it's completely not my fault at all, I mean.
We
you know.
could do a little research into it and quick and see. Off the top of my head, I don't really have an answer.
Yeah,
for
I
that.
believe it's decided by the Board of Abatement, and I do recall a case a couple of years ago where the town of North Bennington was late on their property payment, I guess. There was some situation that involved their attorney, and they appealed to the Board of Abatement, and the Board of Abatement declined to.
Is it the Board of Civil Authority?
Civil.
It's the Board of Civil Authority.
Yeah, I'm never sure which one decides which cases, so, yeah, there are two very similar boards that decide about abating taxes and generally forgiving or appealing, forgiving or reducing for other reasons. And at that time, the board chose not to forgive that. The rules are, of course, that you're responsible for your taxes whether or not you even get a bill. And the Board of Abatement at that time decided that, you know, that it was the attorney's fault, but that still essentially constituted the individual's fault. I'm just saying that for historical reference.
Yeah, I know what you're saying, but you know, I pay enough taxes, I pay them on time, but I mean, I don't think I'm responsible for this at all. I mean,
Right.
it wasn't my fault.
Right,
And I've
yeah.
never, you know, how many years
So,
I've been paying for Shaftsbury.
Yeah, if you could do, as Dave said, let Marlene make copies of those.
Downstairs.
and then,
Marlene's downstairs.
Okay.
We'll look into when the Board of Civil Authority is scheduled to meet again, because it's their decision to make.
Okay, that'll be done before my tax bill is due, right?
I want to check with your accountant, because I had a problem with that.
Yeah.
And my accountant sent a letter to the Vermont Tax Department,
Mhm.
and they took care of it up there.
Yeah, I'll talk to Marlene, I don't have to come back up and she'll handle the paperwork.
She'll just get it to me tomorrow.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good.
All right, thank you, guys.
Thank you. Any other public comments? All right.
Did we want to talk about the tree?
Pardon me?
Did we want to talk about the tree?
Oh,
This is, we were talking about the tree, we've been on the phone. I didn't put you on the agenda, I wasn't sure you were coming, so this would be the time to discuss that.
Briefly now?
Well, there's no other place on the agenda for it.
Yeah, this would be
Yeah, so
good.
that would be the place.
Basically, 350 Vermont has nodes of local groups throughout the state. And I'm involved with the one in Manchester because they began before they had the group in Bennington. And so the nodes were alerted that 350 Vermont could give them a grant to use appropriately. And one of the ventures was to plant a tree at the town hall, elementary schools in the town, that would, with the consent of the Energy Committee, which we have discussed on the Shaftsbury Energy Committee, that we would have the no cost to pay for a tree from the Equinox Nursery in Manchester, and a plaque that would be planted. And you say, why would the tree be planted? The global action that is occurring this week, the a global climate strike, is something that is affecting millions and millions of people around the world, and we are just one part of it. And that it is something to have this tree in the spirit of saying, better to light one candle than to curse the darkness. And so we would like to be able to plant a tree at the Shaftsbury Town Hall. However, if you would explain why you say there might be a problem.
Well, we spoke earlier today about how we are in the preliminary architectural stages of removing the garage, expanding the park out front, the Veterans Park, and reconfiguring that so it's more welcoming and larger. And I'm just afraid if we plant that tree now, this being the way things are, this could be 2 or 3 years before we get to the construction outside, or longer, and then we wind up killing the tree by moving it or something. So I suggested to contact the school, because the school could probably find a place that it would be safe there. You know, I'm not sure, because even the preliminaries are kind of extensive out front, and I'm afraid it will just get planted and we'll kill it in 3 years or 4 years.
Well, I did contact the elementary school today and spoke to the school secretary, who was going to give the information to the current principal, and I expect to hear from them perhaps tomorrow. Because we think that the participation of students and in classes to have a thorough background of why and what, how this came about and what can we do.
Yeah, well, we would certainly welcome, go ahead.
If you're looking for a motion.
I don't know that we need a motion, because I think we're saying we're not ready to accept a tree here. I think we're supportive of the idea, but it sounds like maybe at the school might be a
But it's
better
still
place
town-
for it in the
it's still
near
town
term.
property, which we're responsible for. Is that not right?
Yes, but decision to plant a tree at the school would really be
Up to the
up to
school.
the principal, yeah,
Okay.
in my opinion. Certainly, if you don't get a welcome reception from the school, let us know, and we can discuss it, but I suspect you will. But yeah, we would welcome the idea, were it not for the fact that we're getting ready, like Dave said, in the next few years possibly, to change the landscape here around Cole Hall a lot, and it might be difficult to decide now where to plant it, and a good spot might end up being where the old garage is at the moment, so.
I was thinking that perhaps that this part of the property behind, but nevertheless, I'll find out and I'll share it with Dave.
Mm-hmm. Good, thank you. Any other comments? Yes.
I live behind Daly's, and it's been a little bit noisy lately. And on Labor Day, it was extremely noisy. And I guess they were working on some scrap metal over there. And I just want to go back to the summer too. There was a lot of noise over there. Woke us up a lot during the night. And apparently there was a vendor there on Labor Day. I guess they shouldn't have been there on Labor Day. And which brings me to a noise ordinance in Shaftsbury. I guess there isn't a noise ordinance
Correct, there
in
is not one.
Shaftsbury. But there's something that could be done about getting a noise ordinance in Shaftsbury.
Town plan.
Hmm?
Is that part of the town plan?
It would, it could be part of the town plan. It would be a process that would go through the select board. And I think we have to put it to a public vote, don't we, on an ordinance?
Yes.
Yeah. So for something like that to happen would require a, public participation. It's not something that we get to decide ourselves. So, if I were you, I would start, promoting the idea and see if you get support for it.
Yeah.
So in what manner? Does that mean you need like petitions or a certain number of signatures, or what would be the process?
There's not a prescribed process, but certainly if you get a lot of support for it, let us know, and we'll take it under consideration.
Is that like putting up a signature, thing like Pollens or something, or,
Or, so talk about,
yeah, you know?
They basically talk it up because the noise ordinance had come up years back and was pretty thoroughly rejected. So you'd have to see how many people were interested in passing this and what would be the scope of it in different neighborhoods. And,
right.
you know, some people, there was a lot of discussion of it the last time. So it just,
There is a process, if they want to put something on the ballot, they get a petition with a certain number of signatures.
I have to check because I do not know if you can petition an ordinance that requires that. I'm not sure. I'd have to check the
Okay.
law on that myself.
Yeah, I'm not sure about that either.
Why don't
Yeah,
you
I know
call in a
that
couple of days
you
and I'll
can
let you know.
You can petition
And
for,
find that out.
yeah,
Mhm.
yeah, you can petition, you know, the community appropriations, but I don't know if you can petition an ordinance or not.
Okay.
That's something we'll have to look into.
I mean, that's just one of our ideas on where to go from here, you know, because it's extremely noisy some nights. Wake you up 2, 3 o'clock in the morning, you know. You're waking up because they're just banging. It sounds like there's I don't know, like a rail yard or something, or there's metal banging against metal, you know.
Right, yeah.
It sounds like a steel mill or
I-
a rail yard.
I must have gotten your email, right?
I think so.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And can you remind me your name?
Carol Robert.
Carol Robbins, sure. Yeah. As soon as you said it, I remember the email, yeah. We did, we did contact Brian Lent over there, and sure enough, he was on vacation, and they did have a contractor who was hired to scrap metal. He did not expect that they would be doing it over the Labor Day weekend, and he did not expect them to be doing it early in the morning. And I presume that banging of metal part of it has stopped.
I think it's better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But there was a bit of it. You just never know when it comes and goes, you know.
Right,
So,
right.
like I said, it's happened, it was 2 weeks ago, so no one cares now, but when it happens again next week, then, you know.
Yeah,
That's-
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, it's-
yeah.
It can be infuriating.
Well, I can tell you that, and as you probably know from, because you were probably hearing, are you Tim?
No.
You're Tim. Tim, okay, yeah. Tim Younger, and he and I have exchanged quite a few emails, yeah. At another point, there was an issue with a particular piece of machinery that had a very loud backup alarm, and we consulted with Daly's, with Tom, with Brian Lent about that, and they actually changed the backup alarm and made it quieter, which was significant work on their part because they had to go through the safety checks first, because the easy thing would have been to say, you know, no, it's a safety thing, it has to be that loud.
Yeah.
And they looked into it. It didn't have to be that loud, but it did require them some effort and spending some money retrofitting it. So they have generally been responsive to specific noise requests when they can be. And I guess you also got the email that they're doing stone crushing for the next couple of weeks, around the clock apparently, because of a big order. Is that causing you distress?
I mean, at times it's loud, but it's,
That the stone crushing is not a big deal?
Not as much.
Okay,
It's
good.
the beeping and the banging.
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
There's a, there's a certain beeping.
That's right.
It's one that sounds just like a smoke alarm, smoke detector.
Mhm.
And I've jumped up so many times to find it's that.
Mhm.
And now I don't jump up anymore.
Mm.
So,
So your house will burn down, you don't even wake up to it.
right,
Yeah, yeah.
So you're saying there is still an alarm that you can hear?
exactly.
But supposedly they put one on, it actually has a sonar to it that doesn't beep until they get close to something, and then it begins to beep. Is that my understanding?
That's my understanding, yeah, something to that effect. I mean, there are federal safety regulations that require that when they're backing up, these equipment has to beep and it has to be a certain decibel level, so. Yeah, there's a limited amount that they can do about that.
Yeah, because our first thought isn't to try to create a law, you know, we're trying to be good neighbors too, but.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Well, it's common sense and common courtesy.
Exactly,
Right.
exactly. But it is frustrating, you know, 2, 3 o'clock in the morning when you're woken up, you know, to banging or, you know, obnoxious noise. You know.
Yeah, yeah.
Progressively got louder.
Yeah. We've been there 25 years and it has gotten louder over the years.
Okay.
And then my next thing I wanted to discuss, they graded the road last week and they did a great job. But on the corner by Gary Odell's, they put stakes in the road. And why they did that, I don't know. But I think it's just an accident waiting to happen. I don't know why those stakes are there. I just understand that it was because the grader was taking part of Mr. Odell's land, and it was to prevent the grader taking part of his property. But I think it's dangerous having those stakes there.
They're like stop sign posts, they're a foot in the road, right on the corner, so someone's gonna grab them for sure.
Well,
I mean, they're
we'll
8
tomorrow.
feet,
I'm
they're
not
7
there.
feet tall.
Okay.
And if there's 2 cars going around that corner, I mean, there's gonna be an accident there. I mean, they're spray
Or
painted.
someone's gonna run up the side of their car.
Yeah. Yeah,
What is this?
Grove Road,
Grove Road,
Right,
on the corner by
first,
Adele's.
first quarter?
first corner.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and it would be on the left side going in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we'll look at it tomorrow.
It cuts pretty tight,
See what it
they're
is,
like
yeah.
a foot out in the road, and I'm afraid someone's gonna clip them. I don't know what's gonna happen when you go plow that road.
When they plow the road, I mean, they're gonna be taken out.
First I wanna make sure we put them in.
Yeah,
The town, I mean, I think the town put them in when they graded the road last week.
The town did put them in.
We did put them in.
I was there when they
Okay, let me find out why, I don't know why.
Yeah.
told me so we stay out of the ditch.
what's
That's
that?
reasoning, but I don't see that's a good answer myself.
Yeah.
Is there a culvert there?
No,
No.
there's a constant pothole there that I think they call the ditch, but
Mhm.
I mean, that pothole going in, it saved me from hitting oncoming traffic because with the stakes there, it is one lane.
Oh, really?
And you can't see cars coming in. It's pretty bad.
All right, we'll have a look at it tomorrow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The road gets worn right in that corner.
Yeah,
It kinda
yeah,
makes a
yeah,
groove
yeah.
and a little bit of a ditch, but it's on the road, and maybe it's imparting his land a little bit, but it's not.
All right.
Well, we have a certain right of way from the center of the road.
Yeah. Yeah, and, I mean,
The center of the road can move, but still,
we still have substantial right of way and we shouldn't be narrowing the road. But I don't know what the point was, so I'll talk with them tomorrow and we'll see what the deal is and,
Okay.
well, maybe somebody thought it was a good idea that's not, or maybe it is, I don't know. I don't know why they put them, so we'll find out tomorrow.
Those stakes are not a good idea.
Okay.
They're just the metal poles by themselves?
Yeah,
no
just like a
signs or
stop
reflectors on
sign, only with no sign on top of it. You know, with a little triangular reflector on
Yeah.
top of the little or diamond.
Yeah, a little
shaped ones.
delineator, yeah.
Yeah.
it? They do have the reflector on it?
Yeah, a little one on top, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay,
You
well,
know,
at
they're
least there's
spray
that.
painted orange, you know,
Uh-huh.
Yeah, I don't do that.
fluorescent orange.
Okay, well, we'll look into it, yeah, we don't know why that's there.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks. Any other public comments? Okay. Treasurer's report, Melanie Dexter. You'll pull up a chair.
Hello, everybody. Let's look at the cash flow. The main thing to see there is that taxes received number, so we're well on our way. Processed over $250,000. A not significant, but significant to me, chunk of that came in as credit cards, which I'm very, very happy to see people taking advantage of that. There've been maybe 15 people have done it at this point, and I'm really pleased to see that that's starting to catch on. We're also getting more water payments that way, so I hope that when it comes closer to the due date and people are, the alternative is going delinquent, they will remember that and get the payments through up until midnight on the day taxes are due. If the transaction occurs before midnight, even if I don't hear about it for a few days, that's going to count. So just want to remind everybody out there that that's an option. The other thing I want to remind people is if they have not gotten their tax bills yet, they should contact me. I've gotten a stack of about, I don't know, maybe 20 or 25 back from the post office as undeliverable for one reason or another. And we do everything we can to get those into the hands of the people that they're meant for. But if if we can't, it's still your responsibility. You don't get a free pass if you don't get a tax bill. So please make sure you contact me if you haven't received it yet. The rest of the cash flow isn't terribly interesting because it's mid-month, and so I don't have anything, I can't project it to budget or anything, but you can see our cash position is very secure right now. We won't have to do any more draws on the line of credit.
Have we paid that down?
It comes due in December, and then I think that there's a penalty if you pay it back early, so we just wait to get the invoice. So we borrowed, I believe it was $100,000 or $150,000 a month or so ago, and so we didn't max it out.
So there's a penalty if you pay it early? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't think there's any point in looking at the reserve fund spreadsheet. It doesn't tell you anything you don't already know. It's just a certain amount of money going back and forth for checks that you guys have already approved, just to get them back into the proper place. The other thing that was big this past week, of course, was that Sullivan Powers was with us for 2 days, 2 very long and tiring and stressful days, but they finished up their work and they left Friday afternoon, and so they're working on the audit now. There's always a certain amount of back and forth, but I don't know, what's the time frame for when they want to get us the final?
Should be in December.
Yeah.
So that, because I didn't like when they got it to us in January.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
too late for us to get the annual report.
Yeah, so we hope that we're on a better schedule this year. Any questions about any of that?
Was there anything new that, anything big and new that Sullivan and Powers is complaining about this time in terms of?
There was one issue that arose that took all of my time. There was some unexplained, fairly small error on somebody's part that caused the taxes not to be reconciled. And it was not anything, it wasn't on the tax collection, it wasn't on the delinquent taxes, it wasn't on prepaid taxes, and the only theory is that it had something to do with an alteration to the grand list that would have happened probably months ago, retroactively to the wrong year. This is way in the weeds and you don't want to know all this detail, but that's the only thing that came up that was a frustration for us. Was that
Yeah,
they keep nagging us about the fixed assets, and that's been Dave's cross to bear.
We go back and forth. And the biggest problem with that is trying to value 70 miles of roads, bridges, and culverts that may or may not have to go back before 2004, according to GASB 34. And then this building, valuation of this building, which goes back to the 1800s, and then it can't be an insurance replacement cost. And so we go back and forth on this. Still working, we're still chugging along to...
The insurance replacement cost doesn't satisfy them as a value?
In fact, GASB 34 says specifically you can't use it.
You have to go back to 1834 and...
Well, then the other part...
calculate appreciation.
Yeah, we're quite in the negatives now. But yeah, it's just one of those things where this is a good idea. It was really great if you have a much larger city. It's kind of difficult and extremely time consuming to try and figure out all this stuff here, and we were getting into the conversation about how do you value a dirt road when we had to move on to other things in the 2 days they were here. Its value to us is kind of limited, but it gives a better financial picture of the town according to GASB 34, which is what we're supposed to follow. So we're getting closer to it. We have the full inventory and everything, but it's just really some of this is so old and difficult to give a value that's meaningful. Our insurance values are all done, and they're far higher than what we'll have in the asset for it. Because this building is $1 million for insurance, because to replace it is going to, but if you're depreciating an old church from 1834, and you, like I said, you get to, and this is again getting deep into it, because it's what year. We started talking about the different years they allow you to do. 2004 is supposed to be the cutoff for valuing some things, and then again, we had to get off to other things because they were only here for 2 days. So we're going to have to continue our conversation over how to get this to go through. But
But the inventory, you've done the inventory?
Well, now, see, that's the other thing, that we have an asset inventory, the detailed inventory, because we operate, on the Gadsby, we operate on the purchase, and we don't have inventory. When I need a pile of rock, I order a pile of rock that gets put in the road the next day. When we need paper downstairs, I call Staples, I deliver cases from paper the next day. We don't have inventory. So the detailed inventory part we have to do away with, because it's allowable. But then the asset program is where we have, and I have it printed all out in the NIMRIC asset program, but that's not exactly like what GASB 34 requires. So this is my headache. And value a road that's been here since 1758. It's dirt. It's a dirt road. I don't know what value it really has. But the good thing is that we'll make it easier this year is we just finished on that grant the bridge and culvert inventory for the town. So, okay, now we can have some grasp on how many bridges, how many culverts we have, and we can work on it that way. So that was a good thing to get updated last year, but we only just got that last month, so it's no good for an audit of fiscal, what year is that, 19. So fiscal 20's audit will probably have the full asset program in it. And like I said, overall it'll be another box to check for us matching GASB 34, but its actual operational value to the town is kind of minimal.
Okay.
And we've already proven we have a good bond rating because we paid like 2% interest on the garage bond. So just having the auditors here jumps up our rating. So
Right, right.
He hasn't said this specifically, but I think that what the auditors want is a baseline, and so
Yeah.
then, and wherever it is,
Yeah.
however we.
And that's what we're trying to get to is okay, so define your baseline. Because
Yeah.
I can toss out any number you want.
Right.
You know, I could give you how much it's going to cost to replace all 70 miles of the type of road they are, but that's not.
But so the main thing is to be
Yeah.
able to track changes from this point forward, so we just have to define a point, a
Yeah.
starting point.
And it's that definition and how many assets, like I said, now that we have this new inventory of the bridges and culverts, that allows us to work on that baseline too. So,
But they've been wanting this from the very beginning,
Yeah.
if that's not
Well-
anything new. It's just
well,
that
they've been
Dave's-
wanting this since 2009,
Mhm.
when GASB, I think it was 2009 when this went into effect, and most towns in the country still don't have it.
Right,
So,
right.
but we're working on it. We're trying to get there.
Is this something that we could get a grant, send us somebody off and have them figure
No,
out
it's just
what
coming
dirt
to an
roads are
agreement
worth?
with them on how to do it. And now, the biggest grant we had was someone went out and inventoried our culverts and pipes, because the roads will just take back.
Yeah,
I think where the conversation ended was I can take them back to 2004. But even that's a little problematic, because now define the value of a road in 2004. You know, just give me a parameter, that's all I've said. You know, just say, hey, tell me what value, how you want to value dirt and gravel from 2004.
So there's no standard?
Well, that's what I'm asking them about, because you can't
Gotta
find
be a
it.
standard.
You can't really find it in anywhere I've looked at how different towns do it, and different towns seem to have different values. Some people think they're
So there's no uniform standard?
No, it's just do
That's
it.
crazy.
Well, yeah, but what do they set for a standard for the road? How wide, how,
Well, yeah, but that's the easy part. You have a 50-foot right-of-way, 24-foot
Right, so
travel
it's-
way.
right.
yeah.
Some roads have sidewalks, some roads have culverts in them, other
Yeah.
roads don't have culverts in them, some have bridges. It's just a,
They don't have a standard?
I don't know what you
No.
mean by standard. Roads aren't standard, each road is built.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
designed.
You gotta have,
So you gotta,
you can't figure if you don't, if everything is
I
21
can
feet
take a
wide.
mile of road now, I know how much it costs to pave a mile of road now.
Yeah,
And I gotta take it all the way back to 2004 and then add in the ones that were done since then, so it's actually kind of time.
it is,
Yeah.
It's not on the front burner for me.
yeah.
It's something they just keep putting in there because they just put it in there.
Okay.
Well, doesn't sound like, I mean, key thing is, there's not a lot of practical value in it
No.
for the town. I say don't spend a whole lot of your time on it.
No, that's why, you know, when I first, we first got them in here, they wanted this. Well, they had been wanting it for the prior 10, 12 years. So the fact that we have about 50% of it done is, we're getting there.
Yeah.
that's 50% more than everybody else.
Well, you know, it was one of those things where, because it has so many different aspects to it, it just is the minor part that keeps getting put down. I mean, we know what we have for assets, and we know what we have insurance-wise for replacement costs, and, you know, it's just, I haven't valued the probably 400 culverts we have in town yet. So,
Okay. Okay. Good enough. Any other questions for Millie?
No?
Okay.
Thank you.
You,
Okay. Joe, you're up with a review of the fire truck bids. I recognize that sound. My daughter carries around one of those metal water bottles.
Sounds like a culvert.
Sounds like a scuba tank tipping over. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good night.
So over the past few weeks, we have gone over the specs from E1 and Toyne. The one you have there is from Toyne, Shaker, the fire apparatus. And the one that right there is from E1. What I did is, and what we did is, we went through the specs and we wrote down what wasn't to our specs, what we had, requested. They were allowed to take exceptions. They had to note the exceptions that they were taking. But some of the things they just did on their own, and they, didn't really take note of it. They just did it, and we went through, and like I said, we broke it down and found some real issues with each truck. Most of the issues were probably resolved. The E1 truck had quite a few more issues than the Toyne. Some of the things that I called them on and asked them about, they really didn't give us an answer for. The two main things that I wanted to bring up with the E1 was the chassis. They kind of beat around the bush. They supply their own chassis. And in our specs, we wanted to go through deliveries for a lot of different reasons. We've had good history of deliveries, sales and service, and everything goes along with it. Instead of having to go to Burlington, and dealing with the chassis company up there. So, in our specs, we would buy the chassis outright, through Jeff Delivery, and send it to Toyne, and then Toyne would build on it. What we did in the past, and how it seemed to work for us. And that's what we wanted to do. So E1 took exception to it. I they were kind of going back and forth whether they go with delivery or whether they go with a New York State truck dealer or they would do it themselves. And I couldn't pin them down specifically that you got to go with delivery. They wouldn't. You'll see they don't mention deliveries at all in here. So that was one issue that I really couldn't overcome with them.
You're dealing with Garth Brooks too.
Garth Brooks, yes. We've talked about that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Also, this truck we wanted storage space. We wanted cabin space. We wanted the biggest cabins we could get to carry our equipment. We didn't want a big fancy truck like, with a custom chassis and everything else. We wanted storage space. And E1 automatically eliminated the back compartment, which is a big storage space. It's a huge storage space that we have on our trucks now, and we want to continue to have. But because of the height requirement, they didn't want to make an extra long truck, so they deleted that back compartment and made the water tank come further back. To us, that's a big deal. Their hose capacity on the back of the truck was very limited. It was just, for 1,200 feet, 4-inch hose and nothing else. And we requested more hose capacity. But again, the water tank and the height and everything else, they had to eliminate that. And probably the last big one was the hard suction that we used to draft out ponds and rivers and whatnot. they put it up so high, I don't think there's anybody in this room that could reach it. So it just didn't make sense for us. And, you know, they said, well, we can do this, that, and the other thing. Well, you should have done this, that, and the other thing when you wrote the specs. So we kind of put E1 aside and we focused on towing next. And the towing truck came over 9 feet 6 inches by 3/4 inches, so it's 9, 6 3/4. And I said, that's not acceptable. You know, do we have a couple inches to spare? Sure we do. We didn't get it, so it was this close. But the specs said 9/6. So they went back to the drawing board to their engineers, and they figured out how they could drop that truck to below 9/6 and maybe down to 9/4. And you can see, you know, the one from Shaftsbury Fire Apparatus, they detail how they're going to do that. And you know, it's just something they have to do. There's a couple other issues, but nothing dramatic or, you know, anything we couldn't overcome. But of the both trucks, they gave us, you know, what we wanted overall. We got the storage space, we got the, you know, different little things here and there that will make this a very good truck. So with all that said, we are recommending that we go with VRS Sales and Shaftsbury Fire Apparatus to buy this truck.
Which also known as towing?
Towing,
Okay.
yeah.
3 names.
And it's actually the cheaper of the 2 trucks. It comes in cheaper. And the financial part of it is Dave, whether we can afford to do it now or not.
What's the final figure for the towing?
For both trucks, the towing was here, the E1 was here.
And the towing, that figure includes the chassis?
Includes the chassis, yeah.
Yeah.
So this is a brand new truck.
Brand new truck,
It's being custom ordered. So with VLTC, they don't have replacement insurance. They've already explained that to us. So if something went wrong with this truck, we're not gonna get a custom truck that's gonna fit our needs. We're gonna get whatever they think is best suited for us.
They're gonna get, yes, exactly.
That's right.
Yeah.
How deep do you wanna go on this? In the event something happened?
Well, they would be obligated to, like, if this truck burned up in the first year it was here, they'd be obligated to provide us a similar type and age of vehicle. They just can't roll something in here. You know, but they do have that specifically in the fire thing where they will provide a similar, not an exact replacement vehicle.
I'm just.
No, that's in there. No, I questioned it when we signed that.
What I'm saying is something, God forbid, ever did happen to this brand new shiny truck, we're gonna end up with something that's not gonna suit our needs.
Well, it has to, it's not going to, it will not have the compartments and everything else, but it will have to be similar in use and function and provide most of the things Joe needs. They can't just give us a truck and say, here you go.
Right, it's going to have to go for height.
Yeah, the height requirements is going to meet those. No, but you know, your point's well taken that, yeah, but this insurance does not say, go get yourself another towing for $394. It says we will, and in fire departments, because normally what happens is the fire station burns down with trucks inside, and the big, sorry guys, but the big thing is to get equipment as quick as you can. So I would think the chances of one of these actually being totally destroyed would be very minimal, but possible. Yeah, it's a garage up in whatever, burned up the whole highway department.
And we've had a truck catch on fire right in front of this building, and I was driving it, so, you know, just, and it was all underneath, I couldn't get at it. You know, so it can happen, it's not.
Well, I think that's where I'm going with this whole thing, is that, are we gonna get something to replace what we really need? You know, is it gonna suit our needs?
Yeah, I think that part is that it does have to suit our needs. It will not be a replica truck. I mean, maybe, because this is frankly a really good price for a fire truck. But because most pumpers, you know, in a lot of other departments would be $450. So this is actually a lower 5 for some of these things now.
It's nothing, let's buy 2 of them.
Yeah. But
I mean,
we did that.
VLCT is going to send us a check, right? Not a fire truck.
Not necessarily. They do. Well. Yeah, they will find a truck and replace it.
So I mean, they're going to send us a check. We can decide I mean, we could decide we have to take that check, spend new money to get the
Yeah,
check.
there's
the truck
negotiation
really due.
involved in this. Like I said, it's not like they're gonna go get our old truck back from, New York State and say, here you go.
Right, right.
And like I said, this is a brand-new truck, so they have to replace it with brand-new equipment, And as it ages, like when a truck hits 15 years, which one of them will hit 20 years, yeah, if that had an accident or something, they're not gonna roll out a new truck, they're gonna find you a 19-year-old fire truck to replace it with. But that's being said too, these trucks need to be replaced on a routine basis.
Do we, wanna think of some other truck to do that, Delory's truck?
That's really the firefighters.
Well, no, what I did that was you told me about that injector pump that went on one of our tandems.
Yeah,
Is that very old?
that's a 14.
Yeah, but what,
14.
that's gotta be designed or something, because
Well,
that's,
What engine is they putting in this? Is this a Cummins?
Yeah, oh,
Yeah. The Max Force was International's own engine,
Yeah.
and it was a disaster. They're putting a Cummins engine
oh,
in
all
this.
right, that's interesting.
and that was told to us from the very beginning.
Yes.
Yeah.
Stay away from the Max.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Well, Dave was just telling me the other day about, we had something with the
Well, that's
farm
coming
truck.
up later because we're joining I'm gonna join a class action
Oh,
policy.
okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
okay.
Now, when we open the bids, E1, that's the other one, the fire,
Yeah.
the truck you don't like. They were saying they wanted a different chassis because they didn't think the one that was spec'd was big enough, right?
Yeah, and I went back to Doherty's, Jeff, and questioned him about it. He took some issues with their truck, and he did contact the builder and said, let's do this all over again, make sure we're giving them, and they did. And if you see in the Shakerly specs, they did address it, and they did reconfigure it, and they brought it up to what it needed to be.
Oh, so the Toyn eventually agreed that it needed to be a bigger chassis?
I thought I had it.
Or-
Yeah, it says they're not gonna build on a light spec chassis.
Right.
That was included in the bid package. It's unsafe to operate, as well as DOT violations and NFPA guidelines.
Yeah, and that was what the E1 had said about the chassis from
Right.
Delory's. But then Delory went back and checked with International, and they did do something with the rear end to bring it up a little bit. But basically the truck stayed the same. They felt it was okay. So they're both talking to International, so I don't know why there's two different problems. I do know that the chassis, that the E1 spec used steer tires on the back of the truck instead of drive tires.
Wow.
And couldn't quite figure that out either. The people I've talked with never heard of that before, but to me it doesn't make a whole lot of sense.
Now, these trucks got automatic chains on them?
Yes.
I make the motion that we let the police, or the fire department order the truck that they feel is most suits their needs.
Okay, we have a motion from Art to proceed with truck purchase from Toyn, is that a good way to describe it? For the bid price of?
$394,981.
Second.
Second from Tony. Any more discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
500.
Sale of the used truck, when does that happen, and what do you do with that money?
Well, it's gonna go back
Yeah.
to
We need 58,000 of that to clear this purchase, because we have the rest in cash. That should leave a surplus for that truck, and that'll just be rolled back into the reserve fund to move forward for the next one.
Excellent.
We're gonna keep that truck because it's gonna take a year.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we understand.
So we're gonna keep that truck until, we find, okay, now it's time to start advertising it, and we'll make a deal with whoever buys it, This is where our new truck is gonna roll in, and we'll.
Yeah. And even if it has to be kept a little longer, by the time, there's such a lead time in this, we will have the 2021 reserve money in it. We have to dig into that a little bit to make the final payment here. We'll just reimburse it with the truck sale
Yeah,
money.
you can't go with that truck,
No.
especially that one.
But I think it needs mentioning between Tim and Dave setting up this reserve funds. That we aren't going to the taxpayers for a bond or anything else for new trucks. This is only.
Dave has a beautiful plan
Yes.
to replace these trucks without taking loans and everything else.
Yep, no.
Like some of these towns have to.
Town of Bennington,
Yeah.
1.2 million for a ladder truck,
Yeah.
20 years, and they didn't know it was gonna wear out.
Good job.
Good.
I mean, you guys worked hard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's
Thank you for
a
the.
lot of detail you had to dig into there. Yeah, we
Yeah.
appreciate
These
it.
two guys back here.
Yeah.
A lot of work.
There's a lot.
Thank you, gentlemen.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Road report, later than we're used to getting to it.
Oh, I thought broadband was in there.
Broadband.
Oh, broadband, that does come up first, yes. Just a couple of things. I'm still looking into this business, but I went to a meeting in Wilmington the other night that had the Director of Public Service for Telecom, Clay Purvis was there, Laura Sibilia, who sponsored the broadband bill, was there. A number of people were there looking at how they can, how their towns can leverage this new bill into action for getting something done. The main thing I learned there was I had misread the bill a little bit. It still remains the case that towns cannot obligate taxpayer money to build telecommunications equipment or infrastructure. If we all got together and decided we wanted bad enough to pay for it, it's still illegal because of the whole business of Burlington Telecom and it getting into trouble and trying to overburden the taxpayers. The state passed laws that can't happen, and I had read that the bill to say, it was encouraging public-private partnerships. I thought we were past that, but no. The public-private partnerships that they're talking about are what the bill talks about, creative solutions. So it's coming up with other ways to figure this out, and those ways are, I'm still trying to figure out what they are. We've talked a good bit about the Chesterfield, New Hampshire model, and as I dig deeper and deeper into that one is kind of amazing what Chesterfield, New Hampshire pulled off actually. They are not obligating any money. Consolidated is building fiber to the premises in their town, even as we speak. The incentive that made Consolidated do that, as best I can tell, it's that $10 a month construction fee that they're allowed to collect from subscribers, and the fact that by borrowing with the town and guaranteeing that loan, they're getting a better interest rate than they would have gotten if they had just gone out on their own to try and build this. But I've talked again with the guys that were here, and Jeff from Consolidated. They didn't outright say that's never going to happen again, but they said clearly we can't, do very much of that type of work. What they're really looking for is, somebody to pay part of it, and they'll pay the other part. But then, how do you do that if we can't?
We can't borrow. We can't obligate them.
We can't obligate them.
The town.
So, what the bill is talking about is really replicating the EC Fiber ValleyNet model, which is you create a communications union district of multiple towns, That's EC Fiber. And then you create a broadband company. That's ValleyNet. ValleyNet is a nonprofit internet company. They're a Consolidated or a Comcast that's nonprofit, and they are doing the building. And the H513 has got money set aside to do feasibility studies and business plans whereby you can try to replicate that model and demonstrate it can be cash flow positive or whatever, profitable, or work in 3 years, that you can lose money for 3 years but no more than that. Now, that's, I think, the basic model that the broadband bill was predicated upon. They're encouraging other towns to try and come up with other creative solutions, and I talked to a fellow in Newberry today who just a few months ago, they created a communications district, but it's not the CUD, it's not a union district, it's just Newberry. And they are trying to come up with grants to get some money in somebody's pocket, I guess, and figure out some way to pull it together. And they're looking to pull off one of these first round feasibility studies.
So this is pretty much left up to individual towns to get their act together with this broadband.
Absolutely, yeah.
So
yeah, the whole point of this bill is there's no white horse nobody's going to ride in on a white horse and solve your internet problems.
I'll do it. No.
So here's some ideas for you to try and solve it yourself. Yeah.
So I guess my question is, what if every town pretty much wants and needs this broadband, then why doesn't the state step in and say, hey, let's do this for our buddies?
I think because a long line of governors have made that pledge and fallen on their face with it. And
it just seems kind of funny that if everybody wants it, but you think maybe at a state level somebody would step in and say, hey,
yeah,
provide this.
Yeah, I guess the main reason is it's incredibly expensive.
Yeah.
To do it for the whole state would cost billions. To do it in Shaftsbury, hey, you could do it for maybe $4 million. But why would the state just pick Shaftsbury?
No, but I'm saying if the state, just the whole state as a whole, make sure every town has broadband.
Yeah, well, where are the billions going to come from, I guess, is the question.
Get that money tree out back.
Shake that money tree, yeah.
2 weeks ago, we approved you to do an application. Did you, or?
I have until October 24th, I believe, to get the application in for the first round. The first round is only 3 grants. And I'm starting to think it might not be the thing to do.
Yes.
Because like I say, I'm talking to people who are further along than we are. Newberry already has a CUD, a communication district established. I know that the Northeast Kingdom has an effort that's pretty far down the road toward repeating the EC Fiber ValleyNet model, and there's probably a handful of other towns that are further along than we are in
But if
figuring
we can't
that
go
out.
to the voters for a bond, then I don't see the voter. We've got to come up with something totally different, and I don't know if that grant's going to do that for us or not.
Yeah, our idea was we would replicate the EC Fiber model, but it really comes down to is a communications company going to enter into another one of those deals? And
okay.
I don't know that a study is going to tell you that. I think that that's really a credit to the people in Chesterfield, New Hampshire, who did a lot of good backroom dealing to make that happen.
Okay.
So I'm still gathering information, but at the moment I'm kind of leaning toward not applying at this stage. I am monitoring, what other towns are doing. A handful of us, more than a handful of us, stood up at that meeting in Wilmington last week and said, yeah, we are interested in looking at a regional solution to this. And so, maybe the next step will involve something like that, like a regional solution. Whether or not it goes over the mountain is a question, but there is a logic that says you create a communication union district across town lines, and you carve out the places where basically don't have Comcast wires, and cobble together people who really want it and really don't have it right now, and then try to, you know, get the public support. And that's really the main thing we need, is public support, because the main model for doing this is, you know, the EC Fiber ValleyNet model, which was, you know, communities, you know, a group of people in a town deciding we're going to build an internet company. And that's kind of out of my pay grade, by myself anyway. So that's where we stand with that. Still looking into it, but maybe not trying to get the first round funding. Roads.
All right, roads. Well, we'll update the first thing. The guardrail for North Road has gone from about $2,000 to $6,100. To meet the state standards, because it's a 35-mile-per-hour road, we have to put in special caps on the end, which makes sense, but it's added a great deal of expense to the guardrails. And we
3
need
times
them
the price.
Yeah, yeah, and that's with a lot of our guardrail being used.
What if you change the speed limit?
I was just thinking.
Well, the only problem is, and I do have a whole speech on our ordinance book, which is going to be coming up over the year now that I can devote more time to that, because our ordinances and our policies, some of these things are ancient and out of date and need a thorough work over. But like ordinances, each one has to go to the voters, even when we change it, so it's a whole process. So I'm going to pick out a couple of good ones to get going for March. But then there's a whole bunch of policies. But seeing that we won't be changing the speed limit anytime soon, and we need to put a guardrail up there, we're going to have to do this one. And I agree it's expensive, but it definitely needs a guardrail. So
just that putting caps on it brought it up 3 times the price.
Yeah. They're very expensive. So, but
Yeah, but you can do both ends.
You have to do both ends.
And both ends of the culvert.
We're not doing the south side of the culvert because it's not far enough drop.
Spicing for
Really?
the
Yeah.
new caps.
Now, the north side, everywhere there,
Yeah.
can be, I talked with Mike about the south side today, and he's right. I mean, that would probably add another $2,000 to the project to do that culvert top on the south side. And it, you know, you're only falling from like the table to the floor, and if you're in a car, that's you just going into the mud there. But the other side can be a little bit more treacherous.
Can we put it in our own?
What?
Can we put in our own homemade one?
No, they specifically banned in our that Ken cannot make any homemade.
Yeah. I realize that's to meet a safety standard, but at some point it almost seems monopolistic that they just come up with.
Well, the point of it is that by following all this stuff, we do get our nearly $200,000 a year from the state.
Yeah.
And if there's a disaster and we follow all this stuff, we get 90% reimbursement on expenses. So we follow it.
Yeah.
I challenge somebody to come off Route 7 at 35 miles an hour and go down around there.
Yeah.
They won't do it but once.
Yeah, that's real. They won't do it more than once. I saw a tractor trailer. I've been talking to Tam about, you know, the new Casella people. I saw a tractor trailer turn down there from 7 to 8 the other morning. I'm like, are you kidding me? You know, turn off, you know, follow the directions. Would say Airport Road, turn the GPS off. Because you see this, you know, just boom, turn it in. I was like, whoa.
Jeez.
You know, yeah. The other things coming up, Cross Hill Road is going to start this Wednesday. There will be no through traffic, but everybody will be able to access their houses, and that's just between Coulter and White Creek Road. There will be one day that they're putting it on the drain down the center of the road where you won't be able to drive through it completely. Myers Road, that work continues. The first coat was put on today. The final paving coat will go on tomorrow. They're working up around the bend where it turns to mud all the time. They're doing ditching and cutting back some of the trees. Possibly by the end of the week, we'll be putting the stone pillows in up there to move the swamp from one side of the road to the other. Let's see, Shaftsbury Hollow, that project is going to start next Wednesday.
That's with Weaver.
Yeah, that's a Weaver project. Cross Hill's a Weaver project also. And we'll, again, Shaftsbury Hollow Road will be open all the time. There just will be some delays, there just will be, there's no way, sometimes when you have to move the trucks, you have to move the trucks, so there might be momentary delay while a piece of equipment is moving, but otherwise, during the whole project, the road will be passable, because that was part of the contract, which is part of the expense too. The Trumbull Hill on the drain is tentatively scheduled for the first week in October, and that's was awarded to Matt Morse. And that just leaves one other project left, which is the under drain on West Mountain Road as you're going up the hill westbound by the apple orchard. And we're doing that one. That hasn't quite been scheduled yet. And that'll wrap up all the construction before winter time. Oh, the bump on White Creek. We want to take care of that before the end of the paving season. And then that would wrap up all the construction for the year, really. In the spring, in like week 45 of the fiscal year, I have the wall out in Glastonbury. We'll take another look at that and see what, if anything, can be done there. Probably just stoning the top part to keep the runoff out.
Gonna leave the bottom as it is?
Possibly. I know Mike has been up there with the state engineer, so we're basically going to follow their recommendations on what to do. And it might make it worse trying to replace that thing. You know, if it can be stabilized where it is. You know, if the state says it'll be good if we do this and that, then we'll just stay there. Yeah. The other things that are coming up are, we talked about covers for the trucks. So we have 4 trucks we need to put covers on, or we can put covers on. Yeah, I don't know the reason, but no truck purchase here was ever spec'd out to have a cover on it. So retrofit, each truck will be about $2,500. We looked at a company in New Hampshire. They will not come here and do the installation, so we would have to ferry trucks through the winter to New Hampshire, which just isn't going to work. Morse will get the equipment and put it on, because we actually have to build the assembly on these trucks to put the tarps on. So that'll be about $2,500 a truck to do that. So I'll need the board to approve that, because that is not in the budget, and it's a pretty big hit.
Ken, I know you have an opinion about that.
I still think it's a waste of money. There's nothing should stay on those trucks. Even if they were loaded in properly, that's a driver's responsibility to maintain the load on that and make sure it's a safe load. And there's nothing, the only thing we might ever put in one of those trucks that you might want to cover for would be either chips from the wood chipper or hot mixer. I don't know if it's ever had a full load of hot mix on them.
Well, if one of our trucks has one of these tarps on it and it hits a bump, like some truck hit a bump on 7A and threw some gravel out, is that tarp going to keep that gravel from coming out?
No.
Did our insurance company weigh in
The best
on that?
practice, of course, is put tarps on. In fact, after this came up, because the last truck that was spec'd out here was spec'd out like in 13 before I got here, and I never really thought about tarps on the trucks. All our trucks were ordered the same way. And as you go out and watch trucks, because it got in my mind for a few days, everybody has one. We're like the odd people out here.
Well, I was going to suggest differently. I started noticing in the handful of trucks I've noticed lately, not town trucks, have gravel piled up in the middle above, high enough for me to see.
Well, they have the tarp.
But they're not tarp.
Yeah, many of them don't use, rarely do you see a tarp on, but the mechanism is there.
They have the tarp, but they don't use it.
Yeah.
When you load those trucks, Tim, the loader dumps in the middle of the bed.
Right.
So that's why you see them like this in the middle. When you do that, the sides, the outside of the bed, where the sideboards are, your load is generally down of at least a foot below that sideboard.
I'd like to table this discussion. I didn't have time. I wanted to get a hold of the Vermont Truck and Bus Association and find out what the ordinance or the statute is because my understanding is that any truck has to have its load covered, and for some reason, towns are exempt. And anybody you talk to says, for some reason, the towns are exempt, and it doesn't make any sense, because things can fall off a town truck just as easy as, but I think every other commercial vehicle has to have it covered, and I wanna find that ordinance and, that statute, so I'd like to
Yeah,
take
well, I did
this.
find the ordinance, and it's pretty simple. It says that have to be secured so that essentially stuff can't come out and cause injury or
So
whatever.
you say you did.
It doesn't say specifically tarp, it says has to be
Yeah.
secured so that it doesn't.
And I got an
Come out.
argument on that, that solely means that if you're carrying pipes or other things like that, they have to be strapped in place.
Right.
Which I thought, well, that's an interesting interpretation of that. So, which is why I decided to go to our risk managers and say, what's your best practice? And hands down, the best practice is buy trucks with tarps. So, I mean, that's the simplest answer I have is our insurance carrier says we should have tarps.
If you want to spec out a new truck, I would not object to that.
Well, I think any new truck we have to,
But I just can't see putting,
I think more bodies are made with
$10,000
tarps than without tarps, actually.
I can't.
The liability, they've gotta cover their ass.
Yeah,
But why towns are not required to is beyond me.
yeah, I don't know why we would be either. Although I heard that too.
Yeah, but we haven't established that as a fact yet, have we? Or have we?
Only just rumors.
Yeah.
Everybody I talk to says, yeah, towns are exempt, but
Yeah.
I've not seen it in writing.
Well,
Yeah.
there was one accident just not that long ago, very shortly. One of the Bennington police officers that live here in town, his wife, apparently her car took some damage from a vehicle going by, a construction vehicle over here.
Yeah.
And they tried to do something, to get some sort of, help, hey, what are you guys gonna do? And there's nothing, this is a Bennington police officer, and there's nothing, there's no liability. It's on them. There's nothing the
No, I
construction
just-
company will do.
I disagree with that.
But-
If something comes off your truck and they
Oh,
can
and
prove
I-
it, if that's the liability of the owner of the truck. If it comes off the tires, that's called road hazard.
Right.
That's where the difference is. If a tire throws a
I see what you
stone,
mean, yeah.
that's road hazard,
Yep.
and your liability insurance does not cover that. It's specifically considered road hazard. But when it comes off the truck, that, you can be liable for that.
Mhm. Well, if everybody else is, I'm willing to give Art till the next meeting to find out what the law is, how people are interpreting it, and whether or not towns are actually exempt from it. But I agree, a town exemption for a safety issue doesn't make any sense. So let's not, unless somebody feels differently, I would say let's think about this for another couple of weeks.
Sure.
All right, the last thing I have for the roads then is something Ken was alluding to before. I'd like the board's permission to join a class action lawsuit against International
Oh my God.
on the Navistar Max Force engine settlement. Because we have two of the vehicles that have Max Force engines that are part of this lawsuit. And we can get rebates of up to $10,000 if we're accepted into it. So,
This is the fire trucks?
no, this is the Max Force engine. Two of our dump trucks have Max Force engines. It's always been the problem with this engine.
Mm-hmm.
And our 09, I'm sorry, our 11 and 12s both have it, 7,400 and 7,600.
Art, you were saying that's international zone motor, that's, yeah.
Yeah. And, you know, this we were solicited out of the district court for the Northern District of Illinois as owners of these vehicles. So it's similar to, we're waiting on the lawsuit against the pilot program, but we won. So I don't know how much money we're gonna get, but
Yeah,
but I'm not adverse to turning down
Torque
money.
lawyers.
Yeah.
I would say yes if it doesn't take a lot of your time,
Requires me to sign this paper and
That's
send it
all
back
it is,
in.
it's just joining.
because I imagine we've all gotten the class action lawsuit stuff in the mail, and then 5 years later you get something back saying you get a discount on more of the
Yeah.
stuff from the guy who lost the lawsuit.
Well, the good thing is that this has specific cash options and rebate options because it's been settled. And all we have to do is agree to the settlement with International.
All right.
Oh,
As,
okay,
as opposed to going after our own suit.
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
Sounds easy
Okay.
enough.
See, we
Yeah.
want,
So,
nobody
yeah,
can pay
just-
for cameras for
yeah.
that.
money's money.
So, moved.
Second.
Yeah.
Is that-
Okay, we have a motion from Art, seconded by Joe, to join the class action lawsuit against, what is it again?
It's International Auto Service, Navistar Max Force Engine Settlement.
Okay, as you say. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
500.
Okay, the next thing is, we have a zoning issue that.
Can I do
Sorry.
one more thing on
Yes.
we talked about getting rid of the cat grader and renting the one, with the possibility of Bodwin's are selling their grader, so that's not an option anymore. I would suggest you make sure you have a contract with somebody for a rental on the grader before you let the cat go.
Yeah, the cat's not going anywhere too soon.
Okay,
Yeah, oh, I didn't realize he was selling his grader, but,
well, he was bringing it out of the weeds the other day and said somebody wants it worse than we do,
he was
so.
just using it on our fine road over there.
No,
Oh, that's a different one?
yeah,
Oh, okay.
that's a smaller one.
Yeah,
This is a full-size one.
oh, a full-size one, oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
You got anything else on Highway Road?
Nope, roads are done.
I just wanted to, I was telling Dave, I was at Bucks Hill the other day, and where they get road crew fixed the bad spots, for the pavement up there, they did a really good job. It's gonna last a long time.
Mhm. Good.
Okay, thank you.
It wasn't a patch, it was a fix.
Good.
Right, next one is a zoning, alleged zoning violation, I'll call it. We have sent a property owner multiple notices of potential violation. None of them were responded to. He did come in one day and say that the alleged violation, it was all just personal use vehicles, and it was all like free work and logging equipment. So, I said, okay. Since then.
Just to clarify a little bit for the folks home, we're talking about somebody's claiming they're doing a home occupation,
Yeah,
but the amount of activity is beyond what we believe is appropriate for a home occupation.
yeah, and while he was here that day, I said, look, we're gonna send you the exact same paperwork again. Just fill it out. We're just really going overboard trying to get you just to come in and address the DRB because you have a home occupation. He left, we sent him the certified return receipt mail, and it was returned on refused delivery 3 times. So what we have is just failure to cooperate, whatever. It wasn't too difficult to find the business advertised. Wasn't too hard to find the address, an aerial picture of it on Facebook. So the business is at the place, and it's just not being cooperated with. You can't allow just a total, ignoring of the zoning bylaws. The procedure for the zoning administrator, who's the administrative officer for these codes, is to get to this stage, and then asking for her legal permission from the board to expend funds, because she has none to expend, to take this to our attorney. Because at this stage, a person who fails to respond knowingly to an inquiry is subject to a $200 a day fine, and it does not have to have a hearing, it can just go into effect. Now clearly we don't want to do that. We want you to file the paperwork and come in and just have the discussion. But we just can't allow someone just to totally ignore it, which is what we have going on.
So where is it? Can I ask who it is?
Yeah, on Reservoir Road.
On Reservoir.
Yeah, it's just a simple, it's it was reported with complaints from residents. We saw activity. Shelley did her job and sent letters, ignored, like I said. And I didn't spend too long before I found an address for a business there, and pictures of the business, pictures of one of the trucks on the property at a job site, and it's like, what?
what is it permitted for now?
It's just a residence.
Just residence.
Yeah, it's just a residence. It's a residential neighborhood, and some of the residents aren't happy. It's
Well,
our
could
obligation to move forward.
could they get a home,
You have to go to the DRB, that's.
right, but he could get a home
Of course
chapter,
you could.
no?
We have them everywhere, yeah. We have them everywhere in town. You just have to follow the rules.
Just refuse to do it.
Well, he hasn't done it so far, so.
Okay, well, no, that's
Well,
what I'm
and
asking.
keep in mind, home occupation is something that you do in your home that maintains the character of the neighborhood. Just, if he's running a logging business from a residential location, he's unlikely to go to the DRB and get permission to do that.
And I don't want to get into too many details here because this is illegal.
Right.
Yeah, probably,
I just want permission from the board to, unless the board wants to go into an executive session to discuss details of this. Because otherwise, we just need permission to move forward.
Yeah, I don't think there's anything here for executive session. I think it's a zoning violation. We need to take it to the next step.
Yeah.
which means that
I'll contact our attorney. who-
spending money.
Yeah, and that's what we need permission for.
Okay,
But more specifically, the zoning administrator needs permission for.
okay.
And I have run this by the PC already, too. Because technically, the zoning administrator is an employee of the planning commission.
And then they will be told to come in before the board.
Yeah, that would be the ideal, would be fill out the form.
Right.
I mean, that's all we really want. And then it's up to the DRB is a quasi-judicial board, and they follow the rules, and, that's a whole nother matter.
Yeah.
I don't think we need a motion as long as, by resolution.
Yeah,
No
without
objection.
objection, the zoning administrator is authorized to seek legal counsel on the zoning issue.
Okay,
The next one is dogs, unlicensed dogs.
Unlicensed dog.
We're back to unlicensed dogs.
Never heard that before.
Well, yeah, we really need to put an end to it.
Yeah.
So I've had conversations with the sheriff.
I'm gonna have to eat a cookie for this.
I've checked with VLCT, with the attorneys up there. This Chad had a question of how we can do this legally. What I want the board's permission to do is, what we were trying to set up is a notification to go to the homeowners like we normally do, the dog, people who are on our dog list. Give them 10 days to reply. Then we're gonna send the sheriff out with the people who haven't replied, to give them a formal 10-day notice. And after 10 days, there won't be any discussion. The sheriff will then respond to the home and issue a summons answerable in the Judicial Bureau, which will be a $150 fine. And I want to discuss with our attorney whether or not we can, if we have to adjust our ordinance a little bit, so that we can also go for court costs and our costs for delivery of these summonses be added on. So you're talking about get your dog licensed, or you get the sheriff to come out, we're going to fine you $150. Then there's no waiver fine this. You'll be fined $150, and we can go after cost for the sheriff expenses to do this, and any other court costs we have. So your $10 late fee can easily go to $300.
Yeah.
So I think we're just out of time because we've tried everything I can think of, and everything's been a failure. So I think we just need to send the sheriffs out, just stop having discussions, and it's not, we've had a number of dog bites lately.
Yeah.
And,
That's the scary part.
and, we just have to, some of these people, it's the same people, some of these people who have unlicensed dogs have 3 or 4 with it.
Yeah.
And it's like, sorry, but time is up, you just have to do this, or, once the sheriff issues a summons, you go into the Judicial Bureau, and it's pretty cut and dry. Is your dog licensed? No, that's a $150 fine. The town's also applying to be reimbursed for the expense of hiring a sheriff to come enforce the ordinance, because you didn't want to get us, $7 license now, so. Yeah, I hate to go this far, but I don't see any other way of making people step up and get this done. I mean, we have a few things still to go over. If the board approves moving forward, then I can sit down with the sheriff, who can hash out the details of expenses and things. Bring a resolution to the board. The board would have to approve appointing the office of the sheriff to issue these summonses, because that's what the state attorneys tell me has to happen. And we'll just move forward.
It's a health issue.
Yeah,
Tim
it's
has
a-
said many times.
And we've had a couple of dog bites lately. We're probably going to have a vicious dog hearing. That was brought up to me by Tracy last week, but the paperwork is incorrect, and she has to put together a package. You know, it's all prescribed in the state law. So we're gonna probably be having that hearing, before the end of the month. It's just time to move on this.
Okay.
We've tried everything, and we couldn't motivate people to go out and do things, and it's the same old story. If we drop a few big fines on a few people, suddenly we'll get the dog's license.
So do you want us to approve this policy, or do you want to look into some more
I
details?
just want to, you know, by resolution or without objection, that I can start working out all these details with the sheriff and our attorney.
Okay, I think we ought to, when you're ready for us to, though, I think we ought to make a motion that we're pursuing this policy.
Oh, yeah, because there'll have to be a resolution to enable it, there'll have to be yeah, there's some details to be worked out here. But right now, I just want permission to talk to the sheriff, to talk to our attorney, to.
Are we in agreement to let him talk?
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, yes.
That this is the route we want to go.
Okay,
Yes.
yes, without objection, you can
Okay.
pursue that, yes.
Okay. I think that's all I have.
Okay. No other business?
No, I think that's it for tonight.
All right, reviewing action items, as mentioned, one we've been carrying on releasing the Cemetery Perpetual Care Fund, I believe it's called, and the Health Fund, which were two funds that have been stagnant for decades because we haven't figured out what the paperwork says we're supposed to do about them.
Just to correct, it's the Cemetery Trust Fund.
I knew I had it wrong.
Yeah, because the perpetual trust fund can't be touched.
Yeah, yeah. Something called the Cemetery Trust Fund, which has some, we didn't actually find paperwork, but the stuff that's been carried forward describing it says it's for land and equipment, and we wanted it to be released for general cemetery purposes. And then the Health Fund, which we haven't used for a long time. Those have been sitting with the attorney for a while. She has filed paperwork. They are before the judge. So whenever that happens, we'll get those funds released to us. Let's see. Dave Kiernan and John Kiernan, no relation. We're going to work on the details that we talked about in the water board meeting of we're going to replace the water main. It's going to require a bond. We're trying to time that with coming off of the bond that we're currently under. There's going to be a disjoint in that timing, and probably we decided the smart thing to do is, rather than drop the rates for a year and then have to raise them back up, to put that into a, keep them at the same rate, put it into a reserve fund, which is part of the requirements for doing the engineering study and getting the grants to pull this whole thing together. So Dave and John are going to work on those details for us. Dave's going to look and see what the deal is with the stakes in the road on Grove Road, and also, as we just said, check out the details of getting the sheriff to help us serve summons for people who are not licensing their dogs.
And I'm going to get the ordinance for the
Thank you.
covering the trucks.
Dump trucks, yep. Let's see, was there anything else we promised to do? I believe that's it. Anything else? Is there a motion to adjourn?
Tim, one thing, I
Yes.
just thought, you write that down up there, the cover made me think. The only place I know of around here that's got an ordinance on them is the town of Manchester, village.
Mm-hmm.
You have to cover, you're supposed to cover a load up there with a dump truck. I never did in 30 years, but that's because they didn't have
So
one.
much for that
It's being
ordinance.
taped, you know.
I don't care.
Okay.
I mean,
do you think it's that way because the state trucks travel further and town trucks are more at low
State trucks
speeds
have
in town?
tarps too.
Yeah, but I'm just trying to
Yeah.
figure out why.
If you're putting
towns
a
are
load of
being slow.
blacktop in, you want one, Joe, anyway.
It might be
What's that?
urban.
If you're hauling blacktop, hot mix,
Yeah,
It might
you
be.
want it anyway, cause it keeps the load hot.
yeah.
Nice.
You know, and
Keeps it all
I used to
fast.
stop trucks for being on the highway. And you know, you gotta put good enough speed. You have
Yeah.
stuff coming up, especially like the stuff you guys haul.
Yeah.
Yeah, that will.
But I've never really seen gravel coming out of a truck. I've seen other stuff blowing out, because it's really,
Yeah.
or if they have a dirty load and it's just blowing dust and
Dust.
things out.
Blowing
Yeah,
dust.
yeah. But actual stones I haven't seen.
Okay.
So move.
Motion to adjourn from Art,
Second.
second by Ken. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
We stand adjourned.